I'm a Centennial grad, and you're listening to the West Data Podcast.
What are the needs in our campus, on our campuses, and what are the wants? And if we're in a world of needs, let's talk about that. And here's what we need. We need great teachers in every one of our schools and every one of our classrooms.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to our first kind of, summertime, June edition of the West Data School District podcast. It is fun to be here in summertime.
It is fun to be here in summertime. People always ask me like, oh man, you don't get the summers off. Are you kidding? I love working in the summer. It's calm. We get to plan and reflect.
And planning and all that. Anyway, it's kind of cool. And speaking of planning, our
and
guest
reflecting,
today, Dr. Derek Bubb, joins us for an in-depth conversation that I think you're going to love.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we have the unique privilege of getting to know Derek as a leader and as a friend.
Right.
But I think this is a great conversation for our community and parents to see, who is Dr. Bubb and how does he lead such a large district and all those good things. We reflect and we look forward. It's a good conversation.
It's a big organization. He is an interesting leader, and I think you're going to love it. Here we go. Check it out.
And we're talking to Dr. Derek Bubb this morning. Dr. Bubb, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much. I mean, I have seen everybody walking around with our nice little coffee cups. I'm glad that I finally get the opportunity. Cheers. I mean, this is great. So
if you're nice, we'll let you keep one.
I love it.
We'll see how it goes.
Don't worry, it's clean, fresh water in there. It hasn't been sitting here for a week or anything.
Well, let's start with your background, if you don't mind. I mean, I think the obvious starting point, you were raised by educators in Phoenix. Can you tell me, what was that like? How you raised in a house of educators? What was that like?
Yeah, it's probably a unique background. Grew up in Phoenix, Arizona. So anybody that says I'm a California person, I'm actually an Arizona person. Still a transplant, but a little bit of an Arizona person. Born and raised in Arizona. My mom was a teacher growing up, and just a positive influence on me. I will tell you that as I left to go to college and kind of tried to find my way and figure out what I was going to do, started out at the University of Washington, pursuing football career and had all these great aspirations that didn't pan out, but really a good experience and committed to my parents that I wasn't going to get into education. So as you can see, commitments don't always work.
I'm done. This is it.
Yeah. And a big piece of that was at that age, I just saw how hard my mom worked as a teacher, how hard she worked in the classroom, the dedication that she had for kids every day. And, at 18 years old, you don't necessarily see, hey, what is the gratification that comes from that? And I think there's so much that comes out of that. And so I got out of college, graduated with a degree in mathematics and criminal justice from Northern Arizona University. Got out of college and said, hey, I'm going to go get into law enforcement, maybe go work for the FBI, did an internship with the FBI.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize that.
So,
that's cool.
That's fun.
So really kind of went down that path and met an amazing wife when I was at college. And my amazing wife said, law enforcement doesn't feel like the wife I want to be. And so
happy wife, happy life.
Yeah.
Let's go. Yeah.
And so I thought about it for a long time, about 3 seconds, and said, okay, well, what else is out there? Went and worked for State Farm Insurance for a while. Did some special investigations for them and did some work there. Worked for a small insurance agency as well and did some fun things there, but really quickly realized that somewhere along the lines, I want to make a difference in this world. And this isn't anybody that's in insurance that's listening. This isn't to say they don't make a difference in their own way, but I really want to make sure that at the end of the day, when I got done with my career and whatever that was, I wanted to look back and be able to say, hey, you know what? I had a positive impact on our community. I had a positive impact on kids. And obviously those things oftentimes lead us to education. And so I literally walked my smiling face into Chino Hills High School at the time and said, hey, I've got a degree in mathematics. Are you guys hiring? And they said, yeah, we'll hire you right now. And
math teachers, good math teachers are hard to come by.
And I don't know that I was a good math teacher that first year, but I at least fit the math mold and ended up taking a job at Chino Hills High School. I was extremely fortunate to be able to land that at a great school. Coached football at Chino Hills, started out as just a little freshman coach and enjoyed that and enjoyed working with those kids. And then quickly moved into an athletic director's role, head football coach's role. Got to serve in those roles for a while. Been really fortunate that people probably saw more in me than I saw in myself at that time. And people put me in roles to be able to be a leader in the school. Was so fortunate to come across the paths of great kids all along the way who really inspired me and let me know that I could make a difference in the lives of kids. Still talk to a lot of those guys today. And I should say guys and gals today. And just been fortunate to cross paths with so many amazing people that have been able to be a part of my life, and I've been really fortunate to be a part of their life. And so then all of a sudden took a job as a principal and got to serve as a principal for a while. And my wife said, hey, what do you think about maybe looking at somewhere else? And we had gone through some family things with loss that people face within the family.
100%.
Just kind of put us a step back to say, hey, what's the important things in life? And came up to Idaho with the anticipation that maybe this was going to be a place to raise a family, and walked off the plane and felt it right away.
It's interesting. Our airport does that.
It
you come
does.
home and you're like, oh, I'm home.
Yeah,
I
just told somebody the other day, if you really want Idaho to not be so welcoming, somewhere we have to change the airport, because for whatever reason, when you get here to Idaho, I still feel this today as I travel and I come back. When I come back, it just always feels like home, which is a compliment to our community,
100%.
A compliment to our state. It feels like home, and that's why so many people fall in love with this place. So we made the move about 8 years ago now. Feels like it was just yesterday, but about 8 years ago, we made the move at the perfect time. I remember as we were looking, just like everybody does when you're making the move, we drove by Heritage Middle School. And as we drove up, so in California, where we were at the time, kids didn't really ride their bikes to school. And so it was right in the middle of school. I drove up and the bike rack was full of bikes. And I grabbed both my girls and I said, look,
what a
kids
concept.
Ride their bikes to school. And I'd never been so excited.
No, I like being chauffeured.
So
that's cool.
Never been so excited to be able to be part of that. And my kids went through Heritage Middle School, started at Andrus, went through Heritage Middle School. One's graduating from Eagle High School now, so they're getting older, but I'm staying the exact same age.
Amazing how that happens. Yeah.
So it's been an exciting journey.
It's cool to think how, because Ken's mom was in education. Your mom was a school
Well,
nurse.
she was a school nurse.
Yeah, and my mom was a teacher, and we all were like, I'm not being in education. I'm getting a business degree. I'm going to make money. Who cares about those kids? And then here we all are. It's like in your soul. You can't help it.
It absolutely is. And there's something about, hey, you know what? Education's a unique opportunity to really have an impact on the community, and to work hand in hand with the community. And this is one of those opportunities where you just say, man, I am so lucky to have this position, to be in a position where I get to work with great people, to be around great kids who make you laugh, make you cry, all in the exact same sentence.
Humble you.
Humble you. And it's just been a really great experience.
Well, so my mom was a school nurse, and I'm not going to lie, I was not always the best student as a young guy. What kind of student? I could get on teachers' nerves. I'll put it to you that way. What kind of student were you as a young guy?
Oh, well, you know what? You two know me pretty well. I'll bet you can guess what kind of student. I feel like I'm being set up by this question. I would bet my parents would describe me as a challenging son and a challenging student. I found ways to get into mischief, I'm sure. And so, education's always been really important to me, but I did enough to get by, to get into college. Athletics were a huge priority for me in my life. Being involved in extracurriculars, no matter what that was always a huge part of my life, and to be honest with you, kept me on the straight and narrow because I did enough
100%
to be able to
you're preaching to the choir, man.
Let my dad have my dad let me continue with athletics. That was my big priority. So so any kids listening, that's probably not the path. It also created challenges for me later in life, but I did enough to be able to get on the football field and be able to run track. So
that's cool.
And
that's
cool.
it's
in my experience in education for the past 20 years, it seems that some of our greatest leaders really were kids like you in high school, because you're empathetic to the struggle of kids. Someone where it's easy for them maybe all the time, it's hard to see through the lens of kids who are struggling in school. Does that does your heart have a special place for maybe our more struggling students and that kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, so I will say this. One of the things I've learned in education is, and I love the analogy of kids carry around backpacks, and we never know what's in that backpack. And that has taught me so much because I probably had my own backpack that I walked around with.
Oh, sure,
and
we all do. Yeah.
There's very few times that I would open up to a teacher, a coach, or a friend and say, hey, this is what's in my backpack. But we know that kids walk around with those backpacks. And how do we create an environment in which we make sure that our kids know that they have a place to learn, they have a place to be cared about, they have a caring adult on campus, and that all leads to really, really high academic achievement. Our teachers are able to create that environment. Our principals are able to lead that environment. And thing I'm thankful for is I just get to be a part of that environment.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Well, and you've mentioned a couple of times, you talked about football as both a player and a coach. One of the things that always, it's like you're a competitor. What is competition? How does competition play into your life today?
Yeah, one of the best
Because
lessons.
I love competition.
There might be the most competitive man in the room.
One of the things I learned really early on, and my wife actually taught me this. So, as a football coach, you can put everything in line. You can plan for everything. You can practice really hard. But ultimately, you're putting your faith in the hands of 16-year-old kids. And on both sides, that probably isn't always the safest bet. And so I would come home stressed out, or I'd come home upset over a loss. And we were fortunate to have a lot of wins in there. But
Sure.
I would come home and my wife would say, well, when you put your fate in the hands of 16-year-old kids, there's going to be times when you're disappointed. You got to understand that. And I think that's so true in education, right?
Yeah.
We make mistakes and we have to be able to embrace those mistakes. We've learned much more from our mistakes. I can go back and recount so many mistakes that I've made that have brought me here, including I will never become an educator. So I just think there's so many things that we learn from that. And so that has really brought me to where I'm at today, is just being able to embrace the mistakes. And I think that's what kids teach us. As much as in education, we like to say, hey, it's our responsibility to teach kids how to read, write, and do arithmetic. I think those are all really important skills. But I'll tell you what, I think our educators, from myself to anybody else, learn so much from our kids every single day. Kids say some of the most profound things. That's why I still love to meet with them to this day and hear their voice, because they do say the most profound things and things where I sit back and go, yeah, how did I not think of that? You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
And that's something on that note that I love about your leadership is always taking time and meeting with staff and students. Every semester we go around and you meet with all the student council and leadership classes to really let them have a voice. And I've heard you say to them, this is your opportunity. I'm here right now. You're talking to the superintendent. Tell me, what do you need? What do you like about this? What do you not like? What are your challenges? Is that just from your own experience that you've kind of learned that, or working in high schools? What really made that such a special part for you?
Yeah, I mean, and I think I said this to many of the student council classes. We can always agree on things. We can disagree on things. But I would challenge anybody to say, I don't deeply care about kids and their success. And nobody knows their experience more than they know. And so it's vitally important for me to understand what their experience is. It's easy for me to sit in my office and say the experience for every student in West Data School District is perfect. When you hear it from kids and when you hear criticisms and you hear great experiences, because you hear them both.
Yep.
And
they do. I mean,
those,
I've seen them. They do.
We've
They
had
let you
those
have
open
it.
conversations.
Yep.
It's always dangerous to ask kids what they really think, but they tell you what they really think. And it's just been so positive to hear what their lived experience is every single day and gives us really, really positive momentum of things to change, things to get better with, and things to keep the same. So I think that voice is they're the ones in our schools every single day, and they're the ones experiencing it every single day.
Well, and you touched on this briefly, but we all wear different hats, and no one more than you. I mean, at times you are Dr. Derek Bob, right? And other times you're Dad Derek. I mean, your daughter started at Heritage Middle, at Andrus. But then to see your daughter graduate, I want to hear about from a dad's perspective. What was it like when your first daughter walked across that stage recently?
Scary. Scary for so many reasons. So Delaney, the one that just graduated, is like all of our kids, are just near and dear to our heart, right?
Of course, sure.
And being the first one to walk across stage, I didn't know how I was going to react, and so I told her I was going to put a tack in my shoe. If I started to get choked up at all, I'd just step on the tack. And so that might have been the scariest part, that I was going to get choked up. But, it just makes me, graduations are my favorite time of year. Mm-hmm. So I'll take the dad hat off for a second, and I will just say, when kids walk across our stage, I don't know that our first grade teachers take enough time to pause. And I think so much is learned in that pause to say, I had an impact and I got that kid to graduate, because they did, right? In first grade, we taught them how to read. In kindergarten, we taught them how to read. By third grade, we're teaching them how to be proficient in reading. Sure. And so that is, it isn't our senior, our 12th grade teachers that get those kids across stage. It's a cumulative effort of everybody. And that's so important for our teachers to understand. That is the end product. And so as I think about that, when you think about any kid walking across a stage, that is both college and career ready, and what an accomplishment. It's an accomplishment for our kids. It's an accomplishment for our parents, which I love the fact that they're celebrated. It's an accomplishment for the grandparents, for the relatives, but it's also an accomplishment for our staff who have invested in these kids. And, when you have these first grade kids, you get to plant those seeds, but you literally walk away from that crop and say, well, I really hope that works, or that crop walks away from you. And you say, I hope that works. Yeah. I hope that our teachers take the time to say, man, I had an impact on that. One of our big pieces this year is getting our high school students to go back to their schools.
I love it. Yeah.
And just say thank you.
Grad
Thanks
walks.
for those grad walks are amazing. I think it's good for our current first grade students to see, there is an end to this journey, and this is what I'm going to get. But I think it's great for our teachers. I think it's great for our administrators. So then when you encapsulate that, and I'll bring it back to my own daughter, and you see her, I just think about so many people that have invested in her, and we're so fortunate to be just a small part of that. And you think about, man, I have so many teachers that list goes on and on. Yeah. I remember sitting down with her and saying, well, who do you want to send grad announcements to? And she said, well, I'm not going to send them to my teachers. That doesn't make sense. And I said, well, your teachers actually would want to hear. And then I had teachers reach out to me and say, thanks so much. We're so glad to hear about her. And so that little investment goes a long way. The adage of it takes a village. It really does take a village. And we feel so fortunate that people have invested in our kids' lives. And we sit down every single night at dinner and have conversations about school, and have conversations about the great things and some of the struggles. And all of those things we've learned through, and those it's amazing. I no longer ask my kids, hey, what did you learn in school today? But how did you learn it? Tell me a little bit about that.
Let's dig deeper. Yeah,
absolutely. And it's just it is so endearing to hear the amazing work that our teachers are doing in the classroom every single day with my own kids, with any kids, and the innovative ways that they're employing every day to be able to engage our students it's been incredible. So we feel very fortunate.
On that parent realm, though, we have so many amazing teachers that have poured into our kids. My kids have only ever been here in West Ada, and I'm even grateful for the teachers that are maybe less than ideal, right? For those struggle relationships, because it teaches our kids how to interact in the real world. They're not always going to be in this safe little bubble wrap, right? And so if they have a teacher or administrator or a coach or yard duty or noon duty or whatever that they're struggling with, we can help them with those tools and how to interact. So I'm grateful for that too.
No question. And those are our dinner. Anytime you want to come over for dinner, those are our dinner time conversations.
I have a feeling we're having the same dinner, same conversations.
Everybody would be foolish to think that at my house, we sit down for dinner and everybody says, "Oh,
Yay,
everything was
kumbaya,
perfect. This is great."
perfect, yeah.
In fact, I think I get blamed for more
unicorns.
things at the house than I do at work. So, but we do have those conversations around. Our teachers are doing the best they possibly can, but I don't think it's fair to ask every teacher to get along perfectly with every student and every
right.
student to get along perfectly with every teacher.
Not the real world.
It's
Sure.
just not the real world, and being able to manage that and facilitate that within their own realm is really important life skill for our students to understand, to overcome some of those challenges, and that adversity is that's what we want in our kids. I talk to my kids all the time of everything we do is an interview question, and everything we do is a resume builder. And so let's talk about that, and how can you use those experiences to build your life resume? Maybe it's not going down on a piece of paper, but it is your life resume, right? And being able to have that life resume that says I can overcome adversity. I know how to get along with people, despite where our personalities may be different. I know how to develop my own thoughts, how to synthesize information, how to be a good consumer of information. Those are all really good skills that I hope our students are learning in West Ada.
Join us this summer for the West Ada Enrollment Fair.
Únase a nosotros este verano para la Feria de Inscripciones al Distrito Escolar de West Ada.
Mark your calendars for Monday, July 29th. The fair will run from 8 a.m. until 7:30 p.m. that day.
Marque su calendario para el lunes 29 de julio. La feria se realizará desde las 8 hasta las 7:30 de la noche ese día.
You'll have the chance to learn about enrollment procedures, understand the process, any required documentation and deadlines, or any other special requirements.
Tendrá la oportunidad de aprender sobre el proceso de inscripción, presentar cualquier documento que se necesite y conocer los plazos requeridos.
We want you to be able to prepare this summer for the upcoming school year.
Queremos que te prepares este verano para el próximo ciclo escolar.
There's a lot of information to digest. To help, we've included a link in the show notes. Click there for everything you need to know.
Hay mucha información que digerir y para ayudarte hemos incluido un enlace en las notas del programa. Haga clic ahí para todo lo que necesitas saber.
Derek, in the perspective of the education system nationwide, our district is large, but not among the largest in the nation. But for Idaho, I mean, we're one of the 9th largest employers in the state.
It's huge.
It's huge. I mean, for almost 40,000 students, 5,000 employees, that's a big job that you have. And we're a public education system, which is a unique beast to run, if you will. How do you go about attacking it? I mean, how do you eat an elephant that large?
Yeah, I mean, I would say it starts out with systems, and I think something that West Ada has really focused on in the last few years is developing systems. We can no longer develop, we can't address problems or challenges with one-offs. We have to have a system to address student needs, to address community needs. When you get to a system as large as we are, from transportation to how we feed students every day.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
It is a lot. And somebody said, well, you're larger than a lot of cities.
And it's true.
And we absolutely are. And we're fortunate to have great people in positions in which they have also embraced this idea of systems, because it's exhausting to try to address things on one-offs. If we tried to feed students as one-offs, we'd be in trouble. And if you ever want to see an organization work, walk by food services.
Oh my gosh.
They are efficient, well-oiled.
It's a machine.
Yeah.
It's a machine.
We were able to feed some students at Meridian Middle School this year, and one of the best days is always being able to get out to schools and be part of what our employees do every single day. And feeding kids is so gratifying, just because they're walking across with giant smiles on their faces as they're about to eat lunch. But it has been that is a system, and you know, as you turn around and you look for another piece of pizza, and there's a whole pizza right ready to go, and somebody's there to hand it to you, and getting kids through there. We feed a lot of students every single day. We do it efficiently, and that's just, you know, that's one piece. And you know, and then you look at the larger system of what schools do every single day, and making sure that we have a similar experience in our schools from one end of the district to the other end of the district is a huge priority. That again comes down to systems, and and making sure that, I think we have a responsibility to patrons to say that your educational experience, if you go to Christine Donnell or if you go to
Eagle
Paramount
Hills
or Eagle Hills, you're going
Wherever.
to get the same educational
Sure.
experience. Yes, they're going to have different mascots. They're going to have different teachers. All those things are incredibly important, but the educational experience is going to be very similar. And that is part of that systematic approach to education.
That's right. Well, but anyway, so obviously though, the org chart is huge. There's a lot going on. Leadership always fascinates me. Who are the leaders that have kind of inspired you, and kind of like who kind of set your boat in the right direction, I guess is the question.
Well, I will say there's so many people that I've been able to interact with in my life, and I love to talk about leadership and people that I'm an avid reader. So if it's out, I've probably read it multiple times. But really observing people, I think leadership isn't a title. Leadership is
right.
who you are as a person,
Yep.
and you can put whatever title you want next to people, and we have great people that are custodial staff that are leaders in
Absolutely.
our district. We
Yeah.
have great people that are teachers that are leaders in our district. Obviously, our principals all need to be great leaders, but learning from them and not just learning from their successes. I oftentimes talk about a person that I was able to work with who I will just tell you struggled with leadership. I probably learned from that person about leadership more than I've learned from anybody else. Oftentimes I learned what not to do, but
struggle, you learn from struggles,
but
right?
you learn from struggles, and I think it's a great example. And I've learned from my own mistakes.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
Trust me, I've made plenty of them. But being able to reflect, I think, is a key leadership skill that we don't always talk about. Being able to reflect on your own actions and being able to say, this is what I'm doing well, and you know what, this is an area that I can work on. Hearing that from people, putting people around you that are willing to say, hey, you know what, that didn't come off right, or hey, have you thought about that? I think are all really important skills
Sure.
that leaders have, and I hope that I can embrace and that I can exemplify at times. As people interact with me, I try to be responsive to as many people as I possibly can, and listen to them. We're not always going to agree, or sometimes it's just beyond our capabilities, right? Being a large district has advantages and it has its disadvantages.
Sure.
From a taxpayer standpoint, there's huge advantages to being a large district.
Economies of scale.
Economies of scale. I mean, we have CTE programs where we can bust people in. I sometimes say ship people in. I guess that's not the right word, but we can bust people into schools. We can bust people into to different programs. Instead of having multiple welding programs across the district, we can have a really, really robust welding site at Meridian High School. Instead of having multiple collision repair programs, which would be really expensive, we can have a robust collision repair program. Right. And so there's just so many options within that economy of scale.
Sure.
And we can do it at a tax rate that we feel like it meets the needs of our patrons. Yeah. We're really thankful for our patrons who seem to always step up to the plate when we ask. And I hope that they can walk away and know that we're going to be as responsible as we can with the funds that we receive, and make sure that those funds are being spent on making sure our kids get a great educational opportunity every single day.
And I think, and you may not want to go here, but as a consumer, right? I'm a West Ada parent. My husband grew up in West Ada. Well, then, joint number 2 Meridian School District. But our tax rates have gone down and down since I've been paying taxes as a homeowner, for the last almost 20 years. And seeing the education that my kids are afforded. We have family all over the country, and the opportunities my kids have. And I'm not just trying to blow smoke at West Ada, but it's so, I'm so grateful. I'm grateful for the opportunity. And a lot of people don't realize how education's funded in Idaho, right? Like, our legislature gives us the bare minimum for teachers and the bare minimum for students in the classroom. And we have to do what we can. And fortunately, our community supports us so that we can have these opportunities for our kids. And I know my kids are benefiting from it. Yeah. So thank you. I know it's a hard thing to manage in such a large district with so many varying viewpoints.
Yeah, it's funny you bring that up. I had a parent who emailed or texted me the other day, and tax bills just went out. And she has 4 kids in the district, and she paid $260 in taxes to West Data. And she said, can you break that down per child of what we get? She has one student that's in welding. She has another student that's getting her CNA, her Certified Nursing Assistant license, and she's paying $260 total. The opportunities within West Data really as that economy of scale at a tax rate that I think is affordable and that I hope is affordable for our patrons. It's something to celebrate. Education can be done right. Public education can be done right. And, you know, I keep talking about CTE programs, but when you talk about our academic excellence, the level of achievement within West Data School District, I wish we could shine a spotlight on West Data. And, you know, I'm biased. I get to be a part of this ship, but just being a small cog in the wheel, I just am so thankful for the opportunities that we get to offer at what I would say is an affordable rate. It is, to me, what people envisioned when they talk about public education across the United States.
Right.
It's hard to get on. You know, I get the unique opportunity to meet with superintendents around the United States frequently, and it's hard to talk to them about the great things that we can do in a fiscally responsible way,
Right.
in which we get funded $6,000 per student right around. You know, we're very thankful for that. But you have places in the United States that are not nearly as academic, don't have nearly the academic prowess that we have, don't have nearly the CTE programs that we have. And they're charging $14,000, $15,000 per student. We're extremely fortunate to be where we're at. And a big piece of that is, listen, we get great kids. Our families invest in their kids. We're super fortunate to have that. We have great support from our community. The kids that we're lucky enough to cross the thresholds of our doors every single day are really good kids who come from families that are going to invest in their own students as well. And that partnership between schools and community is really important for us.
Yeah. Well, and it's kind of a roller coaster, right? I mean, because, you know, all these great things we're talking about, it's ups and downs. We had that levy the supplemental levy that just passed. We had a plant facilities levy that didn't pass earlier. But, you know, we talk about our theme, attitude over adversity. It's ups and downs. How do you relate attitude over adversity to the highs and the lows?
Yeah. And I'll go back to plant facility levy, and I think the supplemental is a really good example of that. I think there are opportunities in every crisis. And that's just another leadership lesson that I've learned.
Right.
When you're in the middle of crisis, to sit back and think about the opportunities that are going to present themselves is sometimes challenging, but I think it's so important. And again, that's probably a little bit of dad coming out. And I talk to my kids about that, because sometimes when we're in crisis, we think, oh my gosh, what now?
Right.
But
those are opportunities. As a dad, I see that all the time. It's like, oh, how do I live that though, right?
Yeah, no question. And you know, I'm waiting for the day that my daughter looks at me and says, "Hey, Dad, there's opportunity in every crisis." But you know, when we talk, it'll happen. I guarantee it'll happen. They've probably at least thought it by now.
Right.
But when we talk about the plant facility levy, what's the opportunity that came out of that? Our legislature stepped up, and for the first time, really is funding schools and school facilities in an effective way. That's going to allow us to build schools, to maintain schools, to do some really, really good things to make sure the educational environment for our kids is one that we all expect. That's an opportunity.
While you're on that, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but just to clarify for our listeners, because I'm out there, I'm in the community around all the parents. And so the money that we receive for the first time in Idaho history that our legislature has said, here's some money for facilities. Those monies can only be used for facilities. So, and then we have a supplemental levy, and those are used for salaries and benefits. And so I think some people,
there's a distinct difference there.
Yeah, and it's hard for people to understand that that's how those monies work. And while there's a big check for here's the $150 million for facilities, it's not like it's an injection of $150 million into our budget today, right? And so it's over time, and how do we roll that out?
Yeah, I think that's a great clarification, because when we talk about what I would call categorical funds, you can only spend it on that. Meaning I can't take facilities money and say, well, we're going to get a great teacher.
You mean you're going to give Katie $10 million raises?
Yeah, it doesn't work that way.
I like that idea.
And just the same when
Right.
we talk about a supplemental, and we're going to get, we're going to be able to maintain the level of salary and the level of SRO support that
Right.
we currently have. We can't turn around and say, yeah, but we really need an air conditioning unit. Those are two separate pots,
Right.
and they cannot commingle. So it is an important distinction that people need to understand.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and keeping those buckets differently. Well, kind of shifting gears a little bit. Obviously, population growth has been a thing. It is a thing. It's always going to be a thing. What effect has that had on us? What does that look like?
Yeah, I mean, we are really fortunate to be in an area that continues to boom. It's different areas of the district. We talked about the goods and the bads of having a large district. We span about 500 square miles, and so when we talk about that, we get growth in pockets. And when anybody that's driven around the Treasure Valley lately knows those pockets are in that Star area, and that's going to continue to grow.
Right.
Eagle area continue to grow. And then we have the South Meridian area that continues to grow. And so continuing to be able to address that in a strategic way to make sure we have the facilities available for those kiddos when they come walking in our schools and it is really important for us. And so we're fortunate to have a team of planners that analyze that data every single day, take a really hard look at growth and planning. But it's a good problem to have as we talk to partners around the United States that have sharp decreases in numbers.
Right.
We've had some decreases in numbers over the years, but I mean, we're talking about when you talk about 40,000 students, 58 schools, you lose 500 students. You're really talking about 10 students at a school. So the impact isn't felt, and where we see our growth, it continues to be at some of our high schools continue to grow. When you're in an impacted school and you hear me say, wait a second, we do not have a declining enrollment. We just have declining enrollments in different areas, right? And so
how is that addressed throughout the district? I mean, there's different ways, right? And I know like you mentioned, we have phenomenal teams who look at this stuff, but some ways to do that. If we don't have the community support to build new schools, do we look at like rebounding? Do we look at different busing? Are those all the options that are on the table when our schools are too full?
Yeah, we look at a lot of different options. I mean, rebounding is always a controversial,
right?
And nobody wants to see their kid go to a different school. They have their friend base, they have everything,
right?
But yes, absolutely, rebounding is always something that is a topic of conversation as we try to address the needs of our families. We try to do that as infrequent as possible, so there's not this huge influx of transition for our students. But we also will look at, can we bus students a further distance? Right now we're busing students from Star all the way over to Eagle Elementary. And so, you say, oh, well, what does that really look like? That's probably in traffic. That could be a 20 to 30 minute drive. I mean, that's an extensive
and the logistics
journey.
Of all of that is
no question.
It's a lot.
And let's be honest, transportation's a struggle. So if we're going to put it all on the table, transportation's a struggle, even when it's to our neighborhood schools. And yes, we will continue to look at boundaries. We will continue to look at portables for schools that are expanding quickly. And I think there's an opportunity as we move forward to say, how do we build our schools in a more cost-effective manner? We were able to visit some schools that have done that in the area and really look at what are the needs on our campuses and what are the wants. And if we're in a world of needs, let's talk about that. And here's what we need. We need great teachers in every one of our schools and every one of our classrooms. We need great support staff in every one of our schools and every one of our classrooms. The building does not make great education. Right. The people inside the building make great education. And so we're going to focus on that. We're going to make sure that we have great people. We're going to make sure we have great environments. We're going to make sure we have great leaders. And we're going to put up buildings where kids have a safe place to go. But wider halls don't make great education. And so we're going to just take a real deep dive into that and say, what are the things that we have to have? And what may be the things that are nice, but maybe not a necessity.
Yeah.
So it's like our households, right?
Right.
Wants versus needs, right? I mean, everyone has to make those decisions.
You know what? I feel like I'm talking to my kids right now.
We all have a budget. Yeah.
Well, one thing I wanted, I didn't touch on this earlier, but Katie had asked about the legislature and that kind of thing. Again, you wear a bunch of different hats. One of the you need to work with our legislators. What does that like sitting in your seat?
Yeah.
How does that work?
We work really hard with our legislatures. We have great leaders in our community at the state level. I have really good, robust relationships with all of them. And again, we're not always going to agree, right? But I think there's an opportunity to advocate for your community, to advocate for your schools, to show them what's really going on. That's important for me.
Right.
I love to open up our schools and see what is really going on. We're proud of that work. But being able to develop those relationships and show them what the reality is in our classrooms every day. I hear from people often, well, what about this in education? Or, I heard this in education. Well, let's go look. Let's see what it looks like in West Ada. I can't speak for every district. Here's what I can speak for.
Right.
I can speak for West Ada, and I can speak for what goes on in our classrooms and what goes on in our schools and the programs that we can offer. I'm proud of that. And anytime a legislator wants to come out and say, hey, let's go walk into your schools and see what that really looks like, I think it's really important. Our legislature allocates a lot of money to our schools every single year. And they don't always know what that looks like. And they don't always know what that
how
money
it's being
goes
used,
to.
You don't know until you know, right?
You got it.
Yeah.
It's giving your kids money and not knowing where that happened, what happens with that money. And so there is a level of accountability where they want to come in and see that, and they want to see what our schools are doing, and we're proud of that work. And it's an opportunity to show off the amazing things going on in West Ada.
Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Go to YouTube, search West Ada School District, and like and subscribe today.
So we just wrapped up another great year in West Ada. What do we have to look forward to in 2024 and 25? I think there's some fun things going on.
There are some great things. I mean, I think that as we reflect on this past year, we are incredibly proud of the work that our teachers are doing. And the evidence of that is in high student achievement. We were ranked number 1 in our math scores last year for large districts, number 1 in our ELA scores for large districts.
Not a bad scoreboard, man.
It's not a bad scoreboard for a competitive person.
Right?
I love to sit back and talk a little bit
Heck
about
yeah.
that. But we're going to continue to look at our CTE programs and how do we maximize the capacity in those programs. As our teachers are probably listening to this, thinking, "Oh gosh, that means class numbers." But but really, do we need to hire new staff? Do we need to increase the work there? Continuing with the vision of college and career ready, but really honing in on what does really good instruction look like every single day for our kids. What does that experience look like? Continuing to build that bond between our community and our schools, opening the doors for our community to see the great things going on.
I would like to put a plug right there too, because I mean, people all the time are like, "What's a district doing?
All right. Yeah.
Reach out to us. Like we are community partners. We're parents in the district too. It's a team to raise these kids and educate them well. So it's an open book here.
It is, and we love to communicate with the community, and that doesn't mean, I really strategically try to use the word community because that doesn't mean you have to have kids in our schools.
Absolutely.
We're going to
because it matters to the community whether you have children or not, right?
No question. We're going to do. We're going to have some opportunities for population that may not have kids in our schools, may not have kids at home anymore, but really to bring them into our schools to see the great things. Because listen, we all know there is some great things going on in education, and there's some things that could get better in education. We're proud of the work that we do in West Ada, and so why don't we have some open houses where we can bring people in and have those conversations?
Well, okay, and we've done that with our CTE. Honestly, you guys, before I started working for West Ada, I had no idea how much is the CTE at Renaissance, at Meridian. I mean, there's so much that are. Can you talk about that a little bit? I mean, just the amount of experiences that our students can have is pretty phenomenal. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, I'm an example. My soon-to-be junior is welding, diesel mechanics, and fire. Those are 3 things he's super passionate about, and he's taking all 3 of those pathways until graduation.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's just one kid.
And my daughter just graduated with her CNA license.
Right.
Got it from the state. She's a certified nursing assistant. She did some work over at St. Luke's. Those are incredible opportunities. And the opportunities work both ways. I'll use my own child as that example.
Sure.
Delaney went through the CNA program, said, I really like the CNA program, got to work with nurses in our community, and said, you know what, I love this, but I kind of want to move into like a physical therapy or something. That is such a great just lesson for her,
Right.
Lesson for all of our kids. And if schools are in a position that they're preparing students for tomorrow, whatever that looks like, whether that be in welding, whether that
Right.
be in certified nursing, whether that be in collision repair, whether that be in pharmaceuticals, there's just so many opportunities. My youngest is going through right now, and she's really involved in animal sciences. And she said, well, Dad, while I'm doing that, maybe I'm going to get involved in as a certified nursing assistant as well. You can do that. You can do it at any of our schools.
Tremendous
That's
opportunity.
Well, and it's a
just
great
such a
skill
great
to
opportunity.
help pay your way through the next step of college, right? Like to get right out of high school and be able to be a CNA and make a good living and continue your education. What
No
a gift.
question. And we talk about college, and there was this thought a long time ago. I'll say a long time ago, 5-7 years ago, we said every kid's got to go to college, and we've got to do that. And I'm just going to tell you, we have great kids that are graduating from West Ada that are choosing not to go to college and are entering the workforce and are getting some type of post-high school training in welding, in plumbing, in HVAC.
Right.
We need those people in our community.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's
Sure.
nothing that, I talk a lot about evidence of impact. There's nothing that gives me a better feeling of impact in our community than knowing that the education we're providing gives kids those opportunities. And so when we circle back to graduation and we talk about those kids walking across the stage, I want every single one of our kids to have the ability, to have the skills to be able to pursue that college degree if that's what they want, to be able to pursue that welding certificate if that's what they want, or maybe they have that welding certificate, to be able to pursue those internships, those apprenticeships if that's what they want, to enter the workforce, to go into the military. Those are all, and when you're going through West Ada, you get every single one of those skills and you're ready to go. What a great feeling when you walk across stage, because I didn't have those opportunities when I walked across
Well, and
stage.
that's that life change thing you're talking about. That's why you're not insurance or FBI, right? I mean, to see those kids change their lives.
That's that
How
impact.
cool is that?
It is, just being a little part of that and getting to see their faces when they walk across stage. It is a major accomplishment to graduate from high school.
Yeah.
We're fortunate enough to have a really high graduation rate, and our teachers work really hard to get those kids across. Our counselors work really hard to get those kids across. But it just feels, just being a little part of that, it really culminates on those graduation nights and graduation days where we get to celebrate and then say, what's that next step?
Pretty cool. It's pretty
Well,
cool.
speaking of what's next, as a parent, I'm super excited about some upcoming policy changes for next year. I think we can all agree. I mean, we live in a pretty diverse society, but we can all agree that cell phones are an issue with our kids. And I had the fortunate opportunity to travel around with you, speaking to all of our student councils and leadership classes about these policy changes. Will you share with us about cell phones and academic integrity and things like that?
Yeah, so I'll go back to where West Ada's priority is, and our priority really is to educate kids.
Yep.
And anything that distracts from that, we need to look into and say, what can we do to make this a more effective learning environment?
Right.
You'd be hard pressed to argue that cell phones don't distract from that. And as I sat in my office and thought about, okay, how do cell phones distract from that? I really wanted to get student voice. And so I did visit all of our high schools, and I was shocked to hear students say they're a major distraction.
Oh.
Please take them away from us.
For a 17-year-old kid to raise his hand and say, you know what, it's a problem. It's a distraction, even if it's in my pocket. I am thinking about it. I'm wondering when my phone buzzes in my pocket, I'm no longer thinking about calculus or math 1. I'm now thinking about, oh gosh, who was that? What do they want?
My snap streak.
100%.
And
so,
things.
what I hope is that we can encourage an environment, and we can develop an environment in which kids don't have their phones in class. And I think that's what this policy supports is there's still an opportunity in case of an emergency, because we're all parents, and I respect that. There's still that opportunity for a parent to say, I need to talk to my child in an emergency. If there's a lockdown, that creates a heightened sense of anxiety for a lot of us, no question. And so we want to be able to just know, hey, my kid's safe. And so that opportunity is still there, but they'll be in a separate area where
they're still in the classroom. So there's a
not
lockdown.
Like you can't get a hold of them, right?
It's not like there's a lockdown. Kids can run to the phone vault and grab their phone off the wall and text their parents. Right?
At our high schools, they will have that opportunity.
Right.
Some of our middle schools ask our students to put them in their lockers.
Yep.
We just don't want it on their person, and so that means it's not in their pockets. It's not on them. It's away, and if we can teach kids that skill, that they can actually be away from their phones for a little bit, I think it makes us better. I think it makes our kids better, and it improves our learning environment. And ultimately, when we sit back and focus on things, it really is about improving that learning environment. And what kids do at 3 o'clock or after school hours, that's between them and their
parents,
family and their parents and what they say. But while we're in school, we think it's upon us to make sure that those educational environments are distraction free, and this is a part of that.
Well, it sounds to me like you've heard from the student councils and and I know in my own life, in my own house, I know my kids kind of want those guardrails. They want me to be an adult and do that. That's not true everywhere, I'm sure, but it sounds like in those conversations, you've heard them say, "Hey, we want some guardrails."
Yeah, I will say this: I was pleasantly surprised to hear from students how big of an advocate they were for this. They were really supportive, maybe even a little bit more extreme than I was. Right?
Wow.
Some of them were like, "Well, let's put them in the locker. Let's get ready." So I just think that as a whole, students are really, really understanding. I think we have a different generation. I've seen statistics about when we've asked students today, are they going to let their kids get cell phones at the same age? And overwhelmingly, when I say overwhelmingly, 90+% say, no, I'm not going to let my kids get a phone the same age that I got it. That speaks a lot to where we're at today.
Sure.
And there's something peaceful about knowing, hey, I can put my phone in the vault. Not only am I not snapping right now, not only am I not using Instagram or checking how many likes I have, but guess what? My friends aren't either. And that's really, really important for us. And that's why we're doing it district-wide. We've had little pockets of this for a while. We've gotten really good feedback from parents on this for a while. And so district-wide will just be that next step of saying, this is the way we do it in West Ada. We think education is so important that we're willing to take a little risk and step across that line and say, in our classrooms, cell phones are not going to be the reason that you don't get an education.
Yeah. And that's another example of the systems, right? We have a large school district, and when you implement a rule or a statute with fidelity, it makes that system run smoother. And I think, I don't know, I'm grateful for it. Thank you.
Yeah. And it's something that we can look at our patrons and say, you can have this expectation that in West Ada schools, we will not have cell phones as a distraction. As a parent who has a daughter that's going to be a senior in high school, I embrace that. I thank the schools for that. It's going to be a lot on our administrators to enforce and to make sure that we're implementing this policy with fidelity. But our administrators are up for it. We've great leaders in our schools, and they're going to be up for the challenge.
Cool stuff. Well, totally shifting gears on you. I mean, we did an entire podcast on artificial intelligence, but I'm wondering about in your chair, what are you seeing in AI when you talk to other superintendents across the country? what's your viewpoint there? What do we need to be doing to be proactive and smart about
Opportunity,
AI? Yeah.
right?
Yeah, well, there you go. Yeah.
Crisis and opportunity, I think, is
Yeah.
a really good way to say it, right? And I think there's a lot of opportunity for us to reflect on what we're doing in the classroom every single day. Because if we're going back to 5-page essays and having kids go home and do that, I'm just going to tell you, artificial intelligence has changed that a little bit.
The game has
And
changed.
it
Sure.
absolutely has. I saw another statistic the other day. It said in 5 years, 88% of all jobs will be impacted by artificial intelligence.
Right.
So what are the skills that artificial intelligence can't impact? Well, problem solving. I think one thing that we all can bring to the table that
Right.
artificial intelligence can't is really unique ability to problem solve and think outside the box.
Think, right.
So we have that imperative where we're going to teach our kids. That's a skill set that we need to teach our kids. We need to teach our kids to be able to think outside the box, to problem solve in a really unique way. Are there ways to use artificial intelligence to maybe make our jobs easier or to make things more effective for us? Absolutely. I think we need to teach our kids how to use artificial intelligence. It's another statistic that said that 70% of all jobs will ask for experience in using artificial intelligence.
Right.
So being able to understand it, being able to embrace it and understand where we're coming from on it, but also not losing sight of the important skills of writing, not losing the important skills of spelling, not losing the important skills that we still teach in school.
Communication.
Communication.
How to look
Those are all
someone
going to be
face to face,
look
in
somebody
your eye
in the
and talk.
eye. I mean,
Yeah.
you think about even from an interview standpoint, right? If you are not prepared for those soft skills, we have an imperative to change the way we teach kids and the things that we're teaching kids. And we're going to reflect over that not only this year, but over the next few years to be able to make sure that the students, again, that are walking across the stage at the end of 12th grade
Right.
are prepared for that, to live in an AI world, because it's not going away. And so we need to be able to do that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and from my business background, I always love to do kind of a SWOT analysis, and hey, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. As you start looking towards this next school year, and you think about those 4 aspects, what excites you? What are you keeping your eye on? What do you think about in those realms?
Yeah, so I'll go through each one. I think strengths is going to be what we're doing in the classroom every single day. I think there's some really, really good opportunities for students. I think the new policy on cell phones is going to provide an educational environment that's going to just increase what we are already doing. CTE programs will always be a piece of that strength for
Right.
West Data. There's just so many great things going on in our schools. When we talk about weaknesses, really creating that systems approach. I think transportation is, we've got a big transition in transportation.
Right.
I think that's something that we've got an amazing team that's looking at that every single day and making sure that transition goes well. So we want to make sure that that's no longer a weakness. I hope a year from now I can sit down and say that's a strength.
Sure.
But it's something that we keep a watchful eye on. Opportunities are ever present in all of our schools. And one of the things I love about West Data, I just got done meeting with 58 principals individually about their school year. And one of the things I love about West Data is all of our principals are talking about those opportunities. And yes, we did great.
Cool.
And this is what next year looks like. So those are really individualized opportunities. As a system, we really look at continuing to stabilize a turbulent time and making sure that our kids have great educational opportunities throughout West Data. So there's really, really great things going on in West Data. We're excited about what tomorrow brings. We're excited about what next year brings. We're thankful. I want to end with, we're very thankful for our community supporting us with the supplemental levy. That is such a vote of confidence for our teachers and for our buildings and for our staff and for our SROs. We are very thankful for that. We are mindful of that. We understand that it's a sacrifice for all of our families and for all of our non-families, for all of our community members. And so
because it builds the community.
It
right?
absolutely does.
Yeah.
It really does.
Yeah.
And so we're very thankful for that. And we're looking forward to a great great, I can't believe I'm going to say it, 24-25
I
school
know.
year.
I can't believe we're here. Well, I would like to give, Ken and I get to know you. We know Derek, right? You're Dr. Bub a lot out in the community. And Dr. Bub is the first person in the office in the morning and often the last person to leave.
Yep. I'm his truck is still here. What the heck?
Yep. What does Derek like to do on the weekends? What do you do for fun?
I really like to work on the weekends.
You might think he's joking, but you don't sit still very well.
I don't sit still very well. So, you know what? I love working around the house.
Your yard is beautiful.
That sounds terrible that's my enjoyment, but I really do like being around the yard, being outside. I'm an avid outdoorsman, love to hunt and fish. Just getting out and peaceful is being out in the wilderness. There's no better place than living in the beautiful Treasure Valley to be able to get to do some of those things.
Right.
When you can go to some of the best fishing waters in the nation that are 20, 30 minutes away. Oftentimes I have friends that are super jealous about that, but being able to get out and just be part of the world and not have to be Dr. Bub is peaceful for me. Love being a dad, love being a husband. Those are all really important pieces of my life that I enjoy being. I'm probably not very good at either of those, but I do my best.
We'll have Becky on next time.
Exactly.
That's the next episode. That'd be awesome. Yeah.
That podcast will get a lot of likes.
Yeah.
Well, can't thank you enough, Derek, for being here and for all of you. It's funny this week watching you talk to 58 different principals. It's a lot.
I'm tired from watching.
It's a lot.
It's a lot, but it's worth it. It's I think our principals are a catalyst for all the great things going on in West Ada, and to hear them, it's inspiring for me. I'm going to tell you, I love meeting with students. I also love meeting with our school leaders and our teachers and hearing their voice, and it's inspiring to be able to hear the great things going on in our schools. And again, we're looking forward to a good 24-25.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you, guys.
Right. Thank you for listening. It's so fun for me to get to sit in this seat because, of course, I ask all the questions that I'm curious about that pertain to my family and my boys in school. But what do you want to know? What are your questions for Dr. Bub? We will get them to him and get you answers. What are those burning questions that you have? And what do you want to know about West Ada?
Yeah, so email us, communicate at westada.org, or if you're viewing this on social media, shoot us a question that way, but we really want to know, and we'll pass it along to Derek and get you the answers that you're looking for. It's kind
Absolutely.
of a cool thing. And we always say it. Hey, thank you for joining us. We are glad you're here, and we want to hear from you. If you're watching, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, Spotify, Google, Amazon, or if you're on iTunes, rate us and leave us a review. You can check us out on YouTube. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. We just had our goals this week amongst our team. One of my goals is to grow our YouTube channel. So please subscribe. Make my life better.
Yeah, come on, help Ken reach his goals.
I'm such a selfish jerk. Anyway, we would love for you to do all that. And we love having you here. And we've got some fun things planned for this summer. July podcast coming up. It's going to be, we'll surprise you.
Even though it's summer, we're still going to be coming at you. So we're going to look for some fun things to do and bring to you. But until then, enjoy your summer and thanks for tuning in.
See you next time.